Hello, everyone, and welcome to High Stakes Interviews Live. I'm one of your hosts, Christina Ambers.
And I'm Darlene Reams, your other host. Today, we're sure that you're wondering, who are these folks? Why are they here talking to us about high stakes interviews? So we thought we'd start out by giving you a little bit of our own backgrounds, along with some of those high stakes interview type questions. So for myself, I have a technology background. I got my degree in computer science and was working in technology, slowly moving my way up that ladder of career growth from developer into senior developer. And after being in a senior developer role for about a year and a half, I started during that time to volunteer for lots of different high profile projects. I was taking on additional duties, working as a scrum master, looking for chances to lead at every opportunity to really establish myself as one of the key senior developers at my company. Through the course of a lot of those additional projects that I was taking on and roles that I was filling, I was establishing myself as one of the go-to people. And so that when an opportunity came up, it just happened to be I was on vacation, and I found out that my development manager had taken on a role at another company and had put in his 2 weeks notice. I immediately went into action mode to seize the opportunity that was before me and reached out to his boss to make my case for why I should be the next development manager. We initiated a conversation. We were able to talk a couple of times throughout that day while I was on my trip with my kids. And we decided that as soon as I came back from my vacation, we would sit down and work out the details. But he kind of had agreed at that point that, yes, it made the most sense that I would step into being the next development manager. So through the course of establishing myself, working on some of those extra things, I was able to really seize that huge opportunity that was before me. As I stepped into that development manager role, I was then in charge of hiring. And I was able to put together a list of questions that I love to pose to people as they're looking to join my team. And these are the first set of high stakes interview questions that I wanted to share with you all. The first thing, really simple. What do you know about the company that you're interviewing with? Did you do your research is what I'm looking for. Do you know something? You don't have to get it all right, but do you know some of the things that we do? And it gives a chance to see, is this person really serious about this position or not? The next thing that I love to ask folks is to have them describe the most rewarding experience of their career so far. It really helps to get them at ease, get them talking about successes. And do they even think about successes that way? Do they take pride in what they've done so far? And so you need to be able to talk about your rewarding experiences in your career and have that at hand. The next question that I like to pose is to have someone talk about a particularly challenging past project and how they dealt with that. Because what I'm looking for here is, first, do they focus on overcoming challenges and talking about those challenges in problem solving mode? Because you want somebody who can really be good at problem solving. And so that's another key skill that you should be demonstrating during the course of your interviews. And the next question I like to ask, it's kind of a tricky one, but I love this one, is I'm a new hire to replace you in the position that you currently hold. What are the essential things that I need to know to be successful? It really helps me delve into what the person is thinking and do they actually understand what they do for their in their current position at their current company. And if somebody's stumbling over that, then you know that they probably just put a lot of buzzwords on the resume and they aren't actually doing that work. And so it's a really deep, insightful question that I love. The next one that I like to use, tell me about a problem that you had with a boss or a teammate and how you dealt with that. And if you're ever asked this type of question, please, please, please don't start saying bad things about somebody from your past. The thing that the interviewer is looking for is, did you work in some sort of collaborative manner to problem solve whatever that issue was with that boss or that teammate and collaboratively problem solve again? So I talked about seizing the day. taking advantage of that opportunity when it arose. And that's really the first ace up your sleeve, is to seize the day. By volunteering for projects, demonstrating your skills, taking credit for those rewarding experiences that you've had and other good work, and then reminding folks of that, either during an interview process or as within your company if you're looking to move up the ladder within the company that you're already at. And when you see those opportunities, be tenacious. Even if it means talking to somebody during your vacation, go for it. It's essential to not let those opportunities slip away, because you don't want to have something pass you by and be sitting there regretting not going for it or being afraid to go for it. Choose that fear, step into it over the regret. And so one of the affirmations that I like to use is, do something today which your future self will thank you for. And it's an essential thing to be forward-looking with your choices in your career and not just be settling for wherever you're at today. The next step on my career that I wanted to talk about, so I made it into that development manager role. I was in it for about 5 years. It was super rewarding. I was able to help all the folks on my team, but then it kind of stalled out. There were no more opportunities for me to move up at that particular company. And so I started to branch out. I looked for other opportunities. I wanted to help more people. I really liked that part of management, of working directly with other people and giving them advice on their careers and their skills and helping to grow their capabilities. So as I was looking at other opportunities, I came across one where during the course of the interview, we were talking about a management role, but they didn't quite think about it the same way that I did. And there was a different understanding of what the expectations were. But during the course of that conversation with that director, that hiring director, I was able to establish myself with some expertise in Agile and talk about how I've been coaching the teams that I've been working with. And that led to an opportunity to join that team as a part-time Agile coach, which would give me the opportunity to help a lot more people. But I had to do it while being a senior developer. I hadn't been coding directly in over 5 years at that point. It was a really scary thing to take on, but it gave me that potential to help more people. But there was no more promise of anything larger than helping the 4 teams that I'd be directly interacting with in that senior developer role. So overall, I was taking a step backwards in my career, moving from management back into being an active developer. But by taking that leap of faith, I was able to establish myself as an expert in Agile coaching, move into that in a short amount of time, relatively speaking, and be able to be an Agile coach for 3 years, which then gave me the opportunity to step up yet again and be the Agile transformation lead from an entire company, where I went from helping a couple of dozen people across some teams to hundreds and eventually thousands of people that I was able to help just by taking that leap of faith. So it's a huge potential opportunity for you by having that forward-looking view of things. Some other questions that I wanted to give you, going back to that high-stakes interview type of thing that I either faced or used during my time when bringing in other people to join the team. First one, what is your preferred way to communicate? The type of things we're looking for here: direct, honest, face-to-face. That's essential because we all know that secondary body characteristics matter. And so whenever possible, we want to have that face-to-face communication. It's okay if it's not in person and it's over video. We've all gotten established using our cameras and speaking directly to the camera, and that's okay. But we want to be able to have that direct communication with folks. The next question that I'd like to hear about is, can you explain an occasion where you had to motivate or boost the morale of your colleagues? The types of things that we're looking for here is, are you a team player? Do you understand and want to create psychological safety with that team and with your colleagues? And so having stories that speak to that is a great thing to have in your toolbox. Another fun question that I like to pose to people: imagine that you've just been hired for this role. what's the most important things on your to-do list for the first couple of weeks? And the thing that I most want to hear from somebody during the course of this answer is that they want to connect with their colleagues to get a better understanding over the expectations that each of those people have for that role that they're being hired into. Gets that communication going, it clarifies the interactions with those other folks, and it really gives you a lot of different insights that you can use to draw and do the best possible job as you're getting established in that new role. Another one is to describe a situation that you were where you're a part of a team or a group and you're potentially going to miss a deadline. So what do you do about that? And the things we want to hear here is that you're clearly communicating that issue as soon as it becomes known, letting as many people know as possible, and then taking ownership for problem solving again, because it's okay to miss the deadline or have that potential out there, but we don't want to be trying to hide it or sweep it under the rug. We want to be telling people about it and then telling what we're going to do to fix it, get it back on track. Last one, what makes you unique? So if you're asked that type of question, it gives you a chance to end on a high note and talk about another superpower that you haven't yet had a chance to talk about during your interview. So I've talked a bunch about those leaps of faith, and that really is the next ace up your sleeve. So especially if your career growth is stalled, you might have to be creative, as I did. Look elsewhere for where you're going to go next, and be willing to take that step backwards to be able to go forwards again. It's scary as heck to do that, but it can lead to so much more, because that gave me that chance to help eventually thousands of people. That was really at the core of what I was loving about being a manager. So it's never too late to chase your dreams and go for those opportunities. And even if it means taking that step backwards, as long as you can get your foot in the door, and then of course taking advantage of our other ace, seize the day, establish yourself as that having that expertise, and just reach out and work with folks, help people, do the things that you love to do. And that ties in nicely with my last affirmation that I want to leave you with. You don't even have to see the whole staircase. Just be willing to take that first step.
Great words of wisdom, Darlene. I've added also in the Q&A that if you have any questions, feel free to ask them there. We also have the chat open. I think it's working. I'm not entirely sure. This is new experience for us to be doing this in Teams, but we are learning and excited everybody has joined us. To continue on your journey, we're now going to shuffle a little bit and talk about my change from a business analyst to an agile coach. So I want to start out by telling you that I had gotten laid off. So if you've been laid off or if you've felt that pain before, feel free to put it in the chat. Otherwise, just kind of hold it in personally and know that we've been there. And one of the things that happened to me is I had been in this job for 8 years. I was an accountant at the time, and I also had the business analyst title. So I worked with technology, but my background was in accounting. To make it even weirder for you, I actually do not have one college course credit, period, for computer science or for accounting. However, all of my internships were in both. So I actually have a strong background in both without having a college degree. My degree is actually in communications, which helps out with my agile coach role, but wasn't the best thing for my background when I was trying to move into technology. I had a lot of pressure to land a job because I had been recently laid off. The product I had taken didn't do well, but I had a product that I took from desktop to web application, from waterfall to Scrum, for a company who had never sold software before. That's really what it boils down to. But I got approached by a company who did sell software, and they knew what they were doing. And they had a very similar opportunity for me. It would be taking a product from the desktop to the web and taking an entire team, really the first team ever, from waterfall to Scrum, and being recognized for that at the company. This is a very new endeavor for them, and I was very excited that they put the actual time and energy it took into looking for a candidate who could do this. Again, though, I had zero technical background. I had no computer science courses. I had developed a lot in my life, but I just had nothing for that degree. And where that comes into play is often you'll be asked in your interview, what is your degree in? Or do you have a degree in this specific field? And you're going to have to navigate that, especially if you're like me and you're getting jobs in areas where you have experience, but you don't have the schooling. So, what I like to do is I like to just bring it back to my experience. My degree's in communications, but I had 4 internships at the time that were both in accounting and technology, and I had worked spanning both fields since I graduated college. So, at that point in time, I had about 15 years that I had had in tech and accounting. Again, bringing back to that experience and getting away from that question about my degree. I did have some quirky questions that came up back in those days. One of my favorites is I was asked what my spirit animal was. Now, I'll be honest with you, I had no idea what a spirit animal was. I kind of thought that might be on a taboo subject. It seemed like we were appropriating from a couple places. So I wasn't 100% sure how to answer this. But I really want this job and I really want to get noticed. And I have to overcome not having that background they thought they needed. So I had to come up with a really good answer on the fly. That communications degree does help a little bit. So I looked around the room. What was there that I could use that would help me answer this question and make me sound like a rock star so I would get hired? And it just so happened right behind the person who was interviewing me was a picture of a horse. Now, I know what you're thinking. How do you talk about a horse being your spirit animal? Well, I think what you do is you consider the characteristics that you might see in the animal and you bring those back to you. So I talked about teamwork. I talked about how I like to have a strong work ethic. I like to get through a lot of tough problems and basically crafted that answer on the fly, which probably gave them as much insight into me as it gave me insight into me because, I hadn't really prepared that one. What I learned is you're going to get some of these snowball questions and you're going to have to figure out how to craft your story so you come off sounding like the expert even on the fly. And in our course, we'll talk about a little bit later, we actually talk about how to craft those stories correctly. So it's a really big thing to kind of learn, especially now in your career, because you want to stand out and you want to get hired immediately. Another question that I was asked is, how will you succeed in this role? And I think this happens no matter what. But when you're particularly starting a new position at a company, you're going to be asked often, what does success look like for this particular role? Because they don't know. They're hoping that someone that's an expert out there or someone who's had the title before actually knows what success looks like. And they're hoping you give them some great answers in the interview so they can use those later on when you actually are hired. So be specific. What does success look like for you in that role? And answer it that way because you might be held accountable for that later on. For me, I said to look successful is we moved from the desktop to the web and that we had a scrum practice in play and that I was leading the effort because of course I want to stay in charge of everything that I'm implementing, right? Like that's important. So to do this, I went from different departments, different teams, different responsibilities, but I had a wonderful group of bosses that I worked with. And they all said one thing to me, which is going to be the ace up the sleeve I'm going to leave you with, and that's be willing to learn. There are always going to be new opportunities that come up at companies. It's just the way that the world works. So be willing to learn new skills. Research your market ahead of time. What are those skills you need? Remember, that experience matters much more than that college education, and it even matters more than certifications. Spend time with coaches, spend time networking, spend time attending classes to learn more. But don't worry so much if you end up with a certification or not, or if you end up with that degree or not, because that experience that you get in that class, that's what you need to prove that you understand how to apply to spend time with those experiences. Really important, invent your space, then defend it. Like, I don't know how many times I have reinvented myself, and I'll get into that in a few minutes, but when you invent your space, you are the person who is proving that you belong there. So you need to defend it. You need to be really good about what success looks like, hold yourself accountable, and then show it and brag about it. Make sure that they understand that space is yours now, but you actually have owned that space the whole time. And it might not be where you think you're going to land up. If somebody had asked me what I was going to do with that college degree, I don't think technology or accounting would have been my answer. But outside of my box, it's perfect for me. I have a very strong accounting mind. I like to know how much things cost. I like to know what the run rates are. I love ROIs. I love all those numbers, but I love technology too. So I found the perfect niche where I can blend both, even though I didn't have to go to college for it. And now I'm using that communications degree all the time. A good affirmation when you are trying to get into the learning mindset is that I have the power to create all the success and prosperity I deserve. It's all up to me to create. And once I put that thought out in the universe, it should come right back to me. The other shift I made that I really wanted to talk to you all about today is how important it is to think outside that box again and think about where your niche is. Because I have now successfully at two major companies with huge amounts of people been able to create roles for myself, defend them, and get them added to HR, get them added into a global directory of roles and opportunities for other people. And I've been able to prove these out that they need my position. And this is with zero funding. So I started from nothing. There was no agile coach at the company that I worked for. There was nothing that was at the enterprise level either. There was nothing in product to develop things. None of that existed. However, when I worked as on that team prior, I realized I can't influence change as well as an agile coach for a couple teams or as a scrum master for a couple until I get up to the big umbrella, until I start looking enterprise wide across different business units. And the way to get that was to talk to the people that were in power, all the people in the C-suite, and explain how important my role was going to be and why they needed to create that role. I've done this successfully multiple times. I can walk you through how to do this. But the most important part of that was defining for them why they needed to change. What was the problem that I was going to solve? What I'm able to do, look at my past experiences. So knowing where I succeeded at before, having those measures of successes ready to go on the fly to tell them, and then creating that budget. So talking to them, why should they spend the money for maybe 3 developers on hiring a coach at all? And why create that space? It's a lot of influence and a lot of times that you're spending working with people who they need help seeing that bigger picture. They know that there's something broken. They know there's something that's not working at that company and they need somebody to show them how to fix it. So it's being able to put yourself out there and explain your experiences, how you're going to make it work. And there were a lot of questions that were asked as I was interviewing for the HR to actually even create these positions. So I'm talking to HR, I'm talking to C-suites, I'm talking to executives, I'm talking at multiple companies that I did this at, and I'm explaining why it's important to take me from only a couple teams in technology to working in product, because we all know that technology gets better when we improve product. And then from product, moving outside to more enterprise levels. So I can look at how can I influence change in sales and support and customer success and product and technology, get that whole value stream. So everybody is able to develop products better together. And it all benefits the company. And it's a lot of talking. It's a lot of walking people through that have no idea what you do. So knowing those successful things. So things I was asked is how will our board, because most of these companies I've worked for are public, how will the board view this role as successful? And again, it's going through what do I expect myself to do a couple of years from now? And how would I know this is successful? What changes do I see that need to be made across the company? And answering that and then being ready to prove those out. And it might be that you suggest I prove this out in 3 to 6 months. It might be that you are giving them that 5-year plan. Another thing that they ask is who would you even interact with this new role? And what would you even need access to make this successful? So it's thinking outside of your head. If I'm going to go from thinking about the tactical, the day-to-day, what everybody does, to the strategy, which incorporates everybody at the company and is forward thinking, and then enterprise wide, even bigger, how do I influence every single org? You have to think about who are those people in your sphere of influence that you're going to have to interact with, and what do you need to be successful in those interactions? So it's no longer just looking at it from one business unit point of view or one team or one group of people, but looking at it as a huge company-wide level. And there are not that many roles that span the entire company. Basically, anybody with the title enterprise spans the entire company, and you'll find very few. It's a much needed job title, in my opinion. So if you do want some help on becoming an enterprise product development coach, let me know. I can definitely walk you through there. And HR, if you're trying to figure out how in the world to find candidates like this, let me know. I can help you as well. all of this took a huge mindset shift change for me. I went from thinking about the day to day, thinking about accounting, thinking about technology, thinking about all those little bits and pieces that my teams were doing, to now needing to think about things from the CEO and the C-suite point of view. How can I influence change across the entire organization? And I needed to be there. So that was the first thing that I sold on my ace in the up your sleeve for you on the mindset shift is be where you can influence change. Think broader to go higher. I got up as far as I could in technology. The only thing I could do to influence change going forward was to move to the next business unit and then all the business units. So I had to think higher and I had to go broader. It also meant I had to learn the business. I had to learn how we operated. How does sales work? How does marketing work? I had to network with all the people that I could find in the company to understand how I could help them change and how I could improve that entire value stream from the very first moment a customer says, I want, to the very end where the customer says, thank you. So thinking about all of those little pieces. Very important. Don't let imposter syndrome hold you back. I reinvented myself at multiple companies over and over and over again. And there is a little devil on your shoulder that will say, you're not the person for this, or what makes you think you're qualified? Tell them to be quiet. You know what makes you qualified. You know that you have the experience, the drive, the desire to do this role. You don't need to be held back by some little niggling doubt. So get rid of that doubt or quiet it through all the interview process. You can use these affirmations, I think, to really help you get over that imposter syndrome. So the affirmation for the mindset shift that I would suggest for everybody is, I will be open-minded and always eager to explore new avenues to success, because you are in charge of your success. And as soon as you've got your mindset shifted around that, then you're going to be a lot more successful in your career going forward. And may lead to you having some new successes in your pocket.
Great stuff, Christina. Thank you. So the next thing we wanted to talk to you all about is the skills that you should be having on your resume, as well as being able to speak to for this year in your interviews. And so let's go over those, and Christina's going to kick us off.
Yeah, so I think the most important thing is we used to have that skill everybody put on their skills list. Oh, before I get started on that, you do have a skills box within your resume, right? Like you should have a box that lists all your skills, and even better and more points for you if you actually pick the ones that are top for that job and that you rate yourself. So a recruiter can see that immediately. Everybody has that, right?
Sure
Okay.
hope
Well, if
so.
you don't, yeah, if you don't, then definitely stay tuned because you might need a resume workshop.
Yeah, and as
So,
Christina said, it's essential to be swapping those out depending on the job requirements.
oh yeah, definitely. If you're leaving it static the whole time and it's boring and your resume is not getting noticed, that's probably why. The top skill I would recommend in 2023 to have on your resume is adaptability. Again, we used to have multitasking that was important. Multitasking, nobody cares about anymore. Everybody expects you to get the work done. Adaptability means that you're able to adjust to new conditions that are thrown at you. So, for example, if AI becomes a big deal in your industry, you need to be able to adjust and understand what that means for your particular products or your particular services that you're working with. And as an interviewee, you're going to need to prove out that you've made some adaptations along the way in your career path or your career journey based on what's happened in the world. So adaptability, number one skill to have.
Next one that I wanted to go over is accountability. So I kind of talked about this earlier on when I was talking through some of those questions, but being able to speak to challenges that you faced and more importantly, demonstrate your ability to overcoming those challenges. Everyone expects that you're going to face issues along the way in your career and in the various things that you do, but how do you respond when you're faced with those things? So having that reflected in your resume and again during your interview process is essential for helping you to land your dream job. The next one, of course, it's always been an essential skill, but even more so today, teamwork. Because we're all working in these hybrid environments. Christina and I aren't even in the same state here in the US, but we know how to work together with one another effectively using the tools that we have to communicate. And so in a hybrid environment, you have to be able to demonstrate how you're communicating and collaborating and demonstrating good teamwork. It doesn't matter if somebody's in a different state, in a different country, different time zones, whatever the case might be, wherever you're talking to them around the world. If you've got multiple time zones reflected in your team, you've got to have the skills to still work together, collaborate, and be effective at producing results.
And the last one that's important, and this one you should have gotten from all of our different points today, was continuous learning. You have to be willing to learn new skills and prove it because the world is constantly changing. It's really vital that you continuously improve yourself, but also that you can show that you're willing and able to take new classes. You're able to think outside the box on what might impact your industry that you're currently in, and that you're continuously learning new things. Vital.
Mm-hmm. All right, so we talked through a lot of high-stakes interview questions already. We want to give you a chance to give us some questions. So go ahead and drop some things in the chat. List out your favorite bad or good interview questions and give us some of those examples. We're going to take some of those that are posted into the chat as well as some of the ones that we had sent in ahead of time, and we're going to talk through some of those.
Like Darlene said, we're going to put each other on the spot. And we're going to start out to begin with. Feel free to put your own in the chat if you want. But I've got a great one for Darlene. This one's been posed to me before. And I'm not even sure why they ask this, but maybe you have some insight. Darlene, if you could invite one person to dinner, past or present, living or dead, who would you invite?
Yeah, this is such a silly question for anybody to ask. I think what they're trying to go for is just to see, what are you thinking about? What's important to you? And, maybe what do you want to learn about or something like that. But it's a really strange way to go about it. Just ask the question, what are your interests? And it's a much more direct way to ask that. But I will play along. So my one person is, I would say, Abraham Lincoln. We actually share the same birth date.
That's cool.
And so I learned a lot about Abe Lincoln as a kid. My parents just gave me lots of little tidbits of information about him growing up. And so I learned to appreciate a lot of the things that he did and that helped to influence how I lived my life. So I think it would be fascinating to sit down with him, learn some more about what he faced, why he believed the things he did in the era that it was, where everybody was a slave owner, and how he had to take a stand to overcoming and fixing that wrong that was such a huge part of the history of the United States. So I think it would be really fascinating to sit down and pick his brain for a while. All right, Christina, where do you see yourself in 5 years?
Oh my gosh. I really don't like this question when it's asked because let's be honest here. We haven't even started working at this company and they're wanting to know what we expect to do in 5 years. I mean, I'd like to say that I still like it here and I'm still here, but I can't really ever say that in the interview itself. So you have to think about, like, why are they asking? Well, it's probably because they do want to make sure that I'm considering staying at the company more than 3 months, like longevity matters. But it's probably also that they want to think, like, how am I going to apply the future world at the intersection of this business world? So thinking forward, what are going to be the big things in my industry that I have to worry about? So I would definitely answer this question thinking about, in the next 5 years, AI is going to be important. We're probably going to have a lot more API integrations. Companies that are working together will have a lot more startups. We're probably also looking at, the end of the era of having Zoom calls all the time. There's going to be a new product that comes up. So I'd probably answer this one similar and just say that in 5 years, I see myself now managing a team, right? Because I want to show that I want to go up. So I'm managing a team of individuals who are in charge of our API integrations, who are in charge of our AI and how we're going to use AI, looking forward to meet the needs of the customers. I'm going to be working with my teams on getting VR headsets so we can have really cool and interesting interactions like our customers do when they're playing at home with their own VR interactive headset. We're going to have some business meetings and we're going to talk about the future of each of our products. From here, I would go back to something Darlene said earlier, and I make sure you do research the company well. You want to know what products they've just released and think about what you could do to take that a step further if product or technology is your particular field. If you're medical, you want to look at what are some of the medical things that are going on. If you're education, you want to look at what are some of the big improvements that we've seen in the education space right now. But basically talking about, do you want to move up? What kind of title do you want? What kind of, how are you going to integrate technology into what you're doing? And then what are some of the big innovations for this particular company that you can supply in the next 5 years? They're not going to hold you accountable for it. The person that's screening you is basically just wanting to make sure that you are thinking of the future and that you are going to stick around.
All right. Another type of question that we wanted to talk about, because it's such an important part, is when they say to you, what questions do you have for us? Don't waste that opportunity. Take advantage. Have some questions ready that you want to find out, either based on things that you've already talked about in the interview and you want to dig a little deeper, or have a few at hand and ready to go. It can be on anything. Maybe you want to hear about the work-life balance at the company. So I would ask that one, because that's going to give you some insights. Are they expecting you to put in 80 hours a week? Well, maybe that wants to send you running. Or is it a good balance? Do they understand that people are humans and that they have other things going on in their lives? You're going to work hard. That's totally acceptable and expected. But do they understand that you have a life outside of the company as well?
Well, my favorite question to ask in this time period, and I really do think you get a lot of introspection going on, is how did the company adapt during COVID? Darlene and we saw a lot of companies who decided that they were going to go from working inside an office to working at home. And we actually worked with quite a few companies on the best practices for once you move to work from home. But now we're seeing a shift where a lot of companies are moving back to the office. So I think it's very important that you ask this, because anything that was set up during COVID might be being rolled back in the next couple of years. So if it's really important to you to find a role where you can work from home, or that you have the freedom to not come into an office, you can kind of get a little of information just by asking, how did your company adapt during COVID? The other part of this, you want to make sure that the person you're talking to was actually there prior to COVID. If they weren't, that might give you a little hint about the longevity of the interviewer, but possibly even the longevity right now of the people you'll be working with. They might have had to start all over. They might have had some big shifts. They might have had some big growth. That would be a good thing. But asking that simple question can get you a little bit more information about what to expect from the company.
All right, so earlier on we talked through our stories, but what's your story? What brings you here today? Chances are some of the things that we said were resonating with you. Were you recently laid off? Are you unsatisfied in your current position? Are you looking to change careers? Are you underpaid? Whatever one of these types of personas that speak to you. If you want to go ahead and put that in the chat, feel free to do so, or just internalize that. Maybe it's a couple of them that speak to you, because chances are that something out there is making you feel unsettled in your current career. We know, we've been through these things, and we want to help you. So think about that for a moment. Because it's time to change that. We want you to move forward confidently. We want you to find your dream job and be in a position you love and reach those new heights. Step into more prosperity and have a clear plan for success. So by doing so, it's time to supercharge you. And that's really what this is all about. We want to help you to feel supercharged to finding the next steps on your career ladder to having that prosperity, more success, more happiness, and being more settled in your future.
So if you're ready to get supercharged, definitely put that into the chat. And if you've got questions, add those too. We're going to answer them. That's what we're here for today. So in addition to the interview questions and what's going on, we have decided that we can lend our expertise and use our coaching backgrounds. We are certified coaches, and we can walk you through this entire process. It doesn't have to be as individual. You don't have to feel like you're lonely. You don't have to feel like there's nobody that can help you get a better career. We can do that for you. And we're going to do it through our Supercharge You program. What this program is you're going to have a 30-day, yep, that's right, 30 days that you're going to meet with us, and you're going to get some sort of content from us every single day, a different challenge, different thing to work on, a different thing to think through, a different career path, a different career plan, a different career goal, all these things we're going to walk you through, and we're going to help you get to that better career spot that you want to be. Included in our base program is that 30-day handholding that we're going to do. We're going to use our expertise to get you completely supercharged and up and running. We're also going to have some e-courses that you're going to take. We also have a lot of workshops, like a lot of intensive time that we're going to spend with you to make sure that you have the right resume, that you have the right interview questions down, that you're asking the right questions, that you're able to rock any interview you walk out of. And we're going to make sure that you are coached from the beginning to the end, not leaving you to do it by yourself, not leaving you in a lonely space, but giving you that expert guidance along your path. But we're not going to leave it with just the 30 days. We've also got some amazing bonus content for you, and that is taking you a step further. We're going to be there. It's not a you sign up and then everything's online and you have to do it all on your own pace. No, no, no. We're there to guide you. Again, we're going to have these coaching sessions with you weekly. We're going to have some downloads that you do. We're going to have some things that you're going to check out, and daily we're going to have a check-in to make sure that you're on the right course. Lastly, extra special bonuses that you can look forward to. So we have a fantastic skills assessment we've done at prior companies. So we're going to give that to you, and you're going to be able to take advantage of it. And we're not even going to stop with just the 30 days. We know that sometimes in this environment, it's really hard to get a new role within 30 days. So we're going to actually give you that handholding process through our 90-day action plan workbook. So stay tuned. We've got more information about each one of these things that Darlene and I are going to go over. But this is all the stuff that you get, which adds up to a roughly about $10,000 value. But we're not going to charge you $10,000. Not at all.
All right, so a little bit more detail on the what's included. As Christina talked about, that 30-day action plan, that workbook is really going to be your guidebook to supercharging you and moving to the next steps in your career. We've also got our awesome e-course, Acing the Job Interview. Really helps you to focus in on some of those questions that we've talked about. We go a lot deeper in that e-course, additional questions for you to be able to answer, as well as to ask the interviewer during the course of your interview process. Both of those are parts of what's included for you today.
We also have an impressive interview skills workshop. So if you think you're getting through maybe to like the second or third interview and it's kind of fizzling out and you're wondering why, don't worry. We not only have the impressive interview skills workshop, we have the Get Noticed Now workshop that we're going to lead you through. So we're going to sit there and we're going to give you immediate feedback on how you're doing, what you need to improve, what it would help to get you noticed now compared to other people in the same industry fighting for the same job.
We've also got the Rock the Mock. That's really helping you to focus on your interview skills. So you're going to be working not with a bunch of other people that are in the class. They'll be there, but you're going to be having that process led by one of us, so that we're there to help you to be able to really nail those interviews, perfect your skills, and move forward confidently. We're also giving you exclusive Facebook content. So we're going to be putting things up into the Facebook group that you'll get to be a part of as part of the Supercharge You package. And included in that, we've got lots of additional information, things to think about, things to practice, insights to dig into, and so much more.
We also have a Seeker Survival Skills Live. Every month, we're going to teach you job seekers some new survival skills in this fast-paced world of interviews. So we're going to teach you how and what you need to stand out and get hired now. These are going to be live. So similar to this one, this is the first one actually in the series, but we're going to have these every single month. You'll get access to not only the current ones, but anything that we've had in the past. So if you weren't able to attend today, that's how you get access to this particular one of our lives. Feedback for Growth Workshop. You do not want to miss this. we're going to be teaching you how to give and receive feedback. So not only how feedback impacts your particular interview, which as coaches, we're going to be giving you a lot of feedback on how to really get noticed in those other workshops, but we're going to give you that feedback. We're going to watch you grow through it. And then we're also going to teach you how to give feedback maybe to the companies that you're interviewing with. Sometimes there are some questions that you will get thrown at you, and sometimes there are questions that you'll throw at them that you'll get rocked a little bit on the answer. So we're going to teach you how that feedback impacts you in our Feedback for Growth workshop. All 8 of these are included, and that is over 40 activities with a value of $5,000.
Love it. It's so much great stuff. I can't wait for you all to see what's inside. But that's not all, because we've got bonuses. Our first bonus is those coaching sessions that Christina talked about already. And we're not just going to give you one coaching session. You're going to get a whopping 4 coaching sessions with us every week during your 30-day plan. You're going to be able to sit down with us and talk through, strategize, work on those skills, come up with a weekly goal, and more during the course of those coaching sessions. Our next one is the resume and cover letter review. So you're going to send us what you've got, and we're going to take time to look through those things and give you direct feedback on what you've got included in your resume and in your cover letter so that you can tweak those things, fine-tune them, and really get noticed now.
We also provide you with our ACE resume checklist. This one, we actually throw in 2 extra bonuses too, because it's not just things you should be doing with your resume, it's things to erase from your resume, and that creating that ACE headshot that you need on all your social media that you will be directing companies towards. So with the ACE resume checklist, you are guaranteed to stand out amongst everybody else. We'll also have that daily mindset check-in. Your mindset matters so much during this whole process, so we want to check in and make sure that you're getting the support you need so that you can elevate your own skills and that you can say no to that imposter syndrome and say yes to your dream job. And last, we have a fantastic printable for you, how to land that dream job in 15 steps. Yep, Darlene and I have put it all together for you, so you'll get these all as bonuses when you join Supercharge You.
And so that's another 40 activities with an even more value of an additional $4,000 worth of value. But wait, that's not it. There's even more. We've got 2 more bonuses we wanted to talk about with you today. Our first one is that skills assessment. Christina already talked about this a little bit. These are things that we've brought together from all different sorts of programs that we've been a part of in the past and that we've used to propel ourselves forward as well as to guide others forward on their career trajectories. So we're going to give you those skills assessments so that you can dig in, really find out what your strengths and weaknesses are, and use that going forward.
And we're not going to leave you hanging. We realize that today's markets, it's really hard to get hired in 30 days at any company or move up in your current company. So our thoughts are we need to give you something that you can continue on to action with without our help sometimes for the next 90 days. So what we're going to do is we are going to take and give you the 90-day action plan just so you can continue this and not lose the momentum at the end of your 30 days.
Yeah, I love that workbook. So all told, bringing these 2 additional bonuses in, they contain another 100 activities that we put a value of $1,000 on. So all told, we've got $10,000 worth of content for you today. But as Christina said, we're not going to charge you $10,000. It's all part of what you can join today by joining the Supercharge You Job Seeker Squad for just $1,999. You can read all about it and more by going to our website, smartaceformula.com, and dig into the program and really get to know all the stuff that we put together into this amazing package. We want to see you on the inside. We want to help you to get that dream job and really to supercharge you, supercharge your career, and to feel good about what you're doing every day.
And that's 200 activities. with that value of 10,000. I think somewhere in the math is, well, I don't know. I have an accounting brain, but without my calculator or my 10 key, I'm pretty much lost. So we're not going to calculate it out for you. But it's an amazing opportunity for you to get these 200 activities to get your dream job now. Like, stop waiting. If you don't join by July 1st, then you have to wait until the next opportunity to get hired. And let's be honest now, you've probably made it to a couple interviews and wondered what's not working for you. You've probably done a couple peer reviews. Everything looks great. Let the experts jump in now. Let us help you get further in your career and further down your career path. And you can do it by just joining us and getting your spot in the July 1st Supercharge You Job Seeker Squad. Find us at smartaceformula.com.
All right, so if you have any questions, you can always send us a message at smartaceformula.com. You can find our email address there. You can find us online at Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube. We've got lots more fun content on our YouTube channel, so do check us out there. Lots of different videos that we put up over the last few months that we would love to have folks take it to listen to, give us feedback on those. You can get all the links and more by going to our website, smartaceformula.com, where we want to help accelerate, clarify, and empower, and eventually supercharge you. Thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, and if you have any questions, feel free to keep staying on. We're going to go ahead and close the recording. So that way, anybody who has questions, you can ask them and not have any fear about being recorded during it. So thank you, everybody, for joining, and we'll see you next time.
Bye, all.